Welcome to the Mid Week Tease with me, Adelle Onyango, where I share some random and not too random thoughts on things. And in this episode, I want us to dive into something that sits very quietly in so many of us women, and we never mention it. We have taken a lot of it to be normal when it's not. And I'm talking about the pain we have inherited from the women who came before us, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, and, I can keep going, and the power that we've inherited from them too. And this was all sparked a couple of weeks ago when I watched a TikTok that was talking about wounds of the womb. And the creator was unpacking the various pain and trauma that we inherited from our mothers, right? And I really stuck with it. But the more I thought about it, the more I mulled over it, the more I felt like, well, I didn't only inherit pain, I also inherited power, right? And I thought, I want to talk to you about these two things, these invisible things that are passed down in families. For so many of us African women, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers were just not given safe spaces to heal, right? Think about it. Think about it. Think about your mom. Think about even your aunts, right? They were just not given safe spaces to heal. So they carried unspoken wounds and traumas that just have never been processed, dreams that they had to abandon because of survival. They carried silence around abuse. They carried silence around their own desires. And I'm pretty sure in this moment, if you think about the women in older generations in your families, you can pinpoint a few who are maybe not the best people to hang around. Maybe they're too harsh or too mean, or they're labeled the crazy aunt. You know what I mean? But if you really dig deep, I'm pretty sure there's unprocessed traumas they're carrying. I'm pretty sure there's abandoned dreams they're carrying. I have one of those aunts, and for the longest time, I used to really resent her. And as much as I've gone no contact with her, I can still also hold that feminine humanity that recognizes that this is not the real her. This is the traumatized her, right? I wouldn't excuse it and I wouldn't allow it to harm me, but I can see it. I'm sure you can see it too, right? In a couple of your family members. And so because they carried all of this, they unknowingly handed us a couple of things. And I want to focus on three. The first thing they handed us is silence as a coping mechanism. Think about all of the times you've wanted an aunt or your grandmother to stand up for herself, but they chose silence. Think about the many times you'd wish that they would openly address certain things that maybe have harmed them, but they chose silence. They unknowingly handed that to us. The second thing they handed us is to view endurance as identity, right? So where your worth is measured by how much you can take as a woman and not how much you can live as a woman. The third thing they handed to us was a couple of fears, right? Fear of softness. You've got to be tough. You've got to be hard, right? They handed us fear of rest. It was not welcomed to rest. They handed us fear of pleasure. How many times have you seen the older women in your family genuinely enjoying themselves, genuinely and intentionally seeking and planning enjoyment and pleasure, be it just enjoying life or be it even sexual pleasure, right? I remember one of my closest aunts, and I love her down. And she's in her 50s now, or just got into her 50s. I remember us when she was in her late 40s, for the first time having a conversation about sex toys. Yeah, and her saying how she was thinking of getting herself one and exploring what that would look like. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on this podcast, but I think those tools of self pleasure are very important, not only just to enjoy, but also for you to figure out what your body is, what you like, what you dislike, and to normalize pleasure in all its various forms. And we inherited a fear of pleasure. And all of these fears we inherited because, for their generation and to some extent ours as well, survival demanded that they stay on guard. There was no time to chill, rest, softness, pleasure. We have to stay woke. We have to stay on guard because we're not living. We are trying to survive. And maybe all of these things I've mentioned, you have spotted in yourself. Maybe you work so hard until you collapse, burn out, because that's what you saw modeled. Maybe you swallow pain because that's what they did. Maybe you shrink your ambition because chasing it as a woman felt very unsafe in their time. I remember getting advice when I was married from an older female relative to not live within my means, but to live within my husband's means. Because of the nature of my work, there were some payments that I would be getting that exceeded my husband's, right, at the time. And I always found that to be such weird advice because I wanted a soft life, right? And we can afford even more if we pool our resources together instead of looking at who's earning more than who. You know what I mean? But I don't resent the person who gave me the advice or even the advice. I can recognize the pain in them, the survival in them that led them to believe this to be true and to believe that them telling me this was them trying to keep me safe. This is the pain we inherit. And it's not because they wanted us to suffer, but it's because that was their survival. But I also really think, and we never talk enough about this, that we inherited power as well. And a lot of times this power sits dormant in us. Think about it. I when I was trying to unpack this, I thought about four things under power that we inherited. Like it or not, we inherited resilience, which is a very powerful tool or skill to have when you're navigating life. A lot of the women who came before us lived through systems that were designed to break them, right? I mean, we are still trying to rebuild and break down some of these systems, but they were in the thick of it. And somehow, we are here. They survived it. Resilience, right? The other thing under power that I think we inherited is creativity. You could take it from a very tangible point of our moms, our aunts, our grandmothers could make meals out of nothing, but they also weaved community within a system and spaces that was working actively to erase them. Our moms, our grandmothers weaved communities and created these powerful spaces, be it in the salon, in the market, while they were meeting as women in chamas. You know what I mean? Like they creatively designed safe spaces and communities in an environment that was hell-bent on erasing them. And you know what that has done for us? We have those safe spaces now. That is our normal. When I think about all of the places I am most seen, most held, most loved, it's in a circle of women. It's almost so natural to us to create those female communities. And unfortunately, men just didn't get that, right? That's a crisis that, they are trying to solve now. But for us, it was passed down. We inherited this. The other thing we inherited was wisdom. Let me tell you, even when to the outside world it looked like the women who came before us had been silenced, had been beaten down to a pulp, there were conversations they had with us where they taught us through stories, through rituals, and through intuition and trusting yourself and noticing things that are unsaid and figuring out how to navigate when you notice these things. There's a wisdom they gave us that cannot be taught in textbooks. And the last one, which I think is the most powerful, they gave us spiritual strength. You know, I don't even know how they did it because I don't even think there was a class. Like, I'm somebody who only had 23 years with my mom before she passed away. But there is a grounding I inherited from that woman that connects me to something bigger. For me, I like to think of it as my ancestors. To the next woman, it could be God. To the next woman, it could be the universe. But there is a spiritual strength that we inherited from the women before us that contributes to the power that exists within us today. And so I like to think of our lineage of women as not just trauma. It's important to recognize that so that we can decide that the pain and the trauma stops with us. But it's also important to recognize the artistry, the fire, and the power that we also inherited from these women. And I like to feel like anytime I'm nervous about this crazy little life of mine that I've curated for myself that looks so unlike any other woman in my lineage has lived. And because it looks so different, sometimes I get so anxious and I wonder, am I doing the right thing? Going into business, designing a life that I want, full of peace and ease and silence. I wonder if, am I on the right track? You know, I do get anxious sometimes, but what always sets me back on track is to understand that I am only able to do this because of the power that I inherited from the women before me, because of the sacrifices, the things they had to abandon. Allow me to pick those things up and live them now, no matter how different this life looks to anybody else, right? And because of that, I have to lock in, I have to lean in to this life, and I have to believe and trust in it, no matter how other it looks. And so sometimes I think maybe the most powerful inheritance is that they endured so that we could have the audacity to ask for more. You know? And so where does this leave us? I truly believe healing looks like us as women holding these two truths at once. Truth number one, I carry pain I need to tend to. Truth number two, I carry power that I can build from. These two truths sit within us at the same time, and we can tend to them at the same time. And then we get to choose from these two things what continues in us. And that means consistently asking yourself two questions. Number one, what patterns do I need to end with me? Is it the using silence as a coping mechanism? Is it the abandoning your emotions and when you pick up silence, right? Is it the endurance without joy? Is it the shrinking of your dreams? What patterns do I want to end with me? The second question is, what strengths do I want to pass forward? Is it the resilience? Is it the courage? Is it the wisdom? But now you add a bit of softness in there, a bit of rest. You know, that one is the one I'm so passionate about, softness and rest, and joy. Are those the strengths you want to pass forward? You need to ask yourself these two questions, because when we name these things, then we just stop being passive carriers. We then become editors of the story. We are adding our own chapters. So this week, I really want you to reflect on what pain do you think you have inherited, and what power have you inherited that you want to amplify? Because the truth is, we are living proof that our lineage carried both hurt and hope. And so in us, we then get to decide which story continues. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, pain and power. Can you identify under these two banners what you've inherited from the women who have come before you in your lineage, right? Please drop me a comment. And if you have resonated with this episode, share it with your community, and let's hold space for each other as we rewrite our legacies. Thanks for listening to the Mid Week Tease, a Legally Clueless Africa production. Episodes go out every Wednesday, and you can learn more about us by going to legallycluelessafrica.com.